Practical Research 2.
Learning objectives at the end of the lesson. The students are expected to A. Identify the characteristics of quantitative research. B. Evaluate the strength and weakness of quantitative research. And C. Differentiate between various kinds of quantitative research. Research is a structured inquiry that utilizes acceptable scientific methodology to solve problems and create new knowledge by classification and interpretation of data. Is research necessary? Research is a useful tool to help us better understand the world. Also, research is the product of curiosity. Without research, our society would fail, and we could not possibly have survived as long as we have. According to Quantitative 2002, research can expand knowledge and have new discoveries. Also, research can help us to look for ways to allocate scarce resources accordingly. And research can develop critical thinking and analysis skills. Quantitative emphasized that research is not just about collecting data, but involves a thorough and structured process aimed at discovering or interpreting new knowledge. Quantitative research and qualitative research are two fundamental approaches in research, each serving different purposes and using different methods. To determine if you know the difference of quantitative and qualitative research, here is an exercise. You can pause the video and answer the exercise. Direction. Group the following word clues if they are characteristics of quantitative research box or qualitative research box B. Quantitative research is the process of collecting and analyzing numerical data. It can be used to find patterns and averages, make predictions, test causal relationships, and generalize in results to wider population. While qualitative research is a method of inquiry used in various academic disciplines and defined as a market research method that focuses on obtaining data through open-ended and conversational communication. Here are the characteristics of a quantitative research. Large sample size is to obtain more meaningful statistical result. The data must come from a large sample size. It often used to ensure that the results are statistically significant and can be generalized to a larger population. Second is objective. Data gathering and analysis of results are done accurately, objectively, and are unaffected by the researcher's intuition and personal guesses. Number 3 is visual result presentation. Data is numerical, which makes presentation through graphs, charts, and tables possible and for better conveyance and interpretation.
These visual methods help researchers quickly convey key findings, patterns, and relationships within data, improving the clarity and impact of the research. The number 4 characteristic of quantitative research is faster data analysis. The use of statistical tools give way for a less time-consuming data analysis. Efficient data collection methods, like online surveys with real-time analysis features, further speed up the process. Generalized data is taken from the sample can be applied to the population of sampling is done accordingly, i.e. sufficient size and random samples were taken. Generalized data in quantitative research refers to findings that can be applied beyond the specific sample studied to a larger population. This generalization is achieved through careful sampling methods, ensuring that the sample representative of the broader group. However, to confidently generalize, researchers must ensure that the sample size is adequate, the data is reliable, and statistical tests support the validity of the conclusions. Next is fast data collection. Depending on the type of data needed, collection can be quick and easy. Quantitative research uses standardized research instruments that allow the researcher to collect data from a large sample size efficiently. Fast data collection in quantitative research can be achieved by using digital tools such as online surveys, mobile apps, or automated sensors that gather responses in real time. 7 is reliable data. Data is taken and analyzed objectively from a sample as representative of the population, making it more credible and reliable for policymaking and decision-making. Reliable data in quantitative research is consistent, accurate, and replicable. It's achieved through precise measurements, standardized methods, and repeatable outcomes, ensuring that results are stable and not affected by random errors or biases. Last is replication. The quantitative method can be repeated to verify findings, enhancing its validity, free from false or immature conclusions. Replication in quantitative research involves repeating a study to verify its findings. By using the same methods and procedures, researchers can determine if results are consistent, which enhances the reliability and validity of the original outcomes. These are the strengths of quantitative research. 1. Very objective. 2. Numerical and quantifiable data can be used to predict outcomes. 3. Findings are generalizable to the population. 4. Fast and easy data analysis using statistical software. 5. Fast and easy data gathering. 6. Quantitative research can be replicated or repeated. 7. Validity and reliability can be established. Quantitative research offers strengths such as the ability to collect large amounts of data, enabling statistical analysis and generalization of findings. It ensures objectivity, allows for replicable results, and facilitates comparisons across different groups or conditions. Next are the weaknesses of quantitative research. 1. It lacks the necessary data to explore a problem or concept in depth. 2. It does not provide a comprehensive explanation of human experiences. 3. Some information cannot be described by numerical data such as feelings and beliefs. 4. The research design is rigid and not very flexible. 5. The participants are limited to choose only from the given responses. 6. The respondents may tend to provide inaccurate responses. 7. A large sample size makes data collection more costly. Quantitative research can lack depth, as it often overlooks the context or emotions behind data. It may oversimplify complex issues, relies on structured responses, and may not fully capture participants' true feelings or behaviors. Also, quantitative research has weaknesses like limited contextual understanding, as it focuses on numbers over depth. It may lead to rigid responses due to structured surveys and risks bias in sampling or measurement affecting validity and accuracy. Here are the main kinds of quantitative research designs. Each design serves different research goals, depending on the focus and control needed. First is descriptive design. This design is concerned with describing the nature, characteristics, and components of the population or a phenomenon. This design in quantitative research aims to describe the characteristics or features of a population or phenomenon systematically. It doesn't seek to establish cause and effect relationships, but rather provides a detailed snapshot of the situation. Here are a few examples of a descriptive design. 1. The hours senior high school students spend in social media. This example would aim to systematically collect data on how much time these students spend on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok without attempting to explain why or how social media usage impacts them. The next example is the condition of no backriding policy of motorcycles in the town. This study would focus on observing and reporting how this policy is being implemented and its current impact on the community. Data could be gathered through surveys or interviews with residents, motorcycle drivers, and local authorities to document their experiences, compliance rates, and perceptions of the policy. The study might also track the number of violations, reasons for non-compliance, and any changes in transportation patterns. The next design is the correlational design. It is the systematic investigation of the nature of relationships or associations between and among variables without necessarily investigating into causal reasons underlying them. Correlational design in quantitative research examines the relationship between two or more variables without manipulating them. It helps determine whether a positive, negative, or no correlation exists, but it doesn't establish cause and effect. For example, the relationship between the amount of physical activity done and student academic achievement. It aims to measure how these two variables are related. The researcher would collect data on how much time students spend on physical activities and compare it with their academic performance. Examples are grades or test scores. Statistical analysis would then reveal if there's a positive, negative, or no correlation between the two variables. The second example is the relationship of teenagers' sense of humor with positive psychological capacity. In a correlational design exploring the relationship between teenagers' sense of humor and their positive psychological capacity, the researcher would gather data on both variables. They might use surveys or questionnaires to assess teenagers' sense of humor and measure aspects of positive psychological capacity, such as resilience, optimism, or self-esteem. By analyzing the data, the researcher would determine if there's a correlation, whether teenagers with a higher sense of humor tend to have higher positive psychological capacity or not. Next design is the ex post facto design. It is used to investigate a possible relationship between previous events and present conditions. The term ex post facto means after the fact, looks at the possible causes of an already occurring phenomenon. This design in quantitative research investigates the effect of an independent variable that has already occurred. Researchers study existing differences between groups without manipulation, trying to infer cause-effect relationships retrospectively. For example, how weight influences stress coping level of adults. Since the weight variable already exists and cannot be manipulated, the researchers would analyze how these different weight groups cope with stress, based on surveys or assessments. This retrospective approach attempts to infer if weight has an influence on stress coping levels, but it cannot establish direct causality. The next example is the increase of fatal vehicular accidents in a town. In this design studying the increase of fatal vehicular accidents in a town, researchers would analyze factors that may have contributed to the rise after the accidents occurred. Since the accidents have already happened, the study would seek to understand correlations or patterns that might explain the increase, but without manipulating any variables or establishing direct causality. The fourth design is the quasi-experiment. It is used to establish the cause and effect relationship of variables. Although it resembles the experimental design, it has lesser validity due to the absence of random selection and assignment of subjects. The independent variable is identified but not manipulated. The researcher does not modify pre-existing groups of subjects. The group exposed to treatment, or the experimental, is compared to the group unexposed to treatment or the control. This design examines the effect of an independent variable on a dependent variable without random assignment to groups. It often involves pre-existing groups, allowing researchers to explore causal relationships in real-world settings. For example, the effects of a peer training program on academic performance in high school mathematics. The researchers would implement the program with a specific group of students, such as a class or grade level, without random assignment. By analyzing the differences, the study can infer the impact of the peer training program on students' math performance, though the lack of random assignment means results may be influenced by other factors. The next example is the impact of digital educational games on learning outcomes in secondary education. Researchers would implement a digital game intervention with a specific group of students, such as one class or school, while using another similar group as a control that does not use the games. Researchers would then assess learning outcomes through pre-tests and post-tests, comparing the performance of both groups. This design allows the researchers to analyze the effectiveness of digital games on learning outcomes, although the absence of random assignment means that other variables may also influence the results. The last design in quantitative research is the experimental research design. It is used to establish the cause and effect of two or more variables. This design provides a more conclusive result because it uses assignment of subjects and experimental manipulations. This design is a systematic and scientific approach used to investigate cause and effect relationships between variables. For example, an agriculturist wants to know which is more effective, organic fertilizer or synthetic inorganic fertilizer in sweet potato crops. This experimental approach allows the agriculturist to draw causal inferences about the effectiveness of organic versus synthetic fertilizers, controlling for other variables that could affect crop performance. Based on the results, the agriculturist could conclude which type of fertilizer is more effective for sweet potato crops, thereby providing valuable insights for future agricultural practices. The second example is a dietitian wants to recommend Ampalaya ice cream to his patients. He wants to know how much ratio of Ampalaya and milk would be acceptable to the taste of his patients. The researcher would create different formulations of Ampalaya ice cream with varying ratios of Ampalaya to milk, for instance, 1:2, 1:3, 1:4, and a control with no Ampalaya. This experimental approach enables the dietitian to gather objective data on patient preferences and make informed recommendations regarding the incorporation of ampalaya into ice cream in a way that is palatable to his patients. And now, let's have an exercise. Directions. Say true if the statement describes quantitative research and false if it is incorrect. Are you ready? Let's begin. Quantitative data can be presented using tables and graphs. The answer is true. Next, the result of quantitative research can be used to generalize and predict. The answer is true. Next, quantitative research is flexible to at any age. The study may change. The answer is false. Moving on, quantitative data are more credible, reliable, and useful than qualitative data. The answer is true. Next question. The research study cannot be replicated or repeated because it is unique in every case. The answer is false. That ends our topic. I hope that you learned from this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to update more videos.